Good evening. My name is Donna Kale. I'm one of the school counselors here at Blue Ridge, and welcome to our financial aid night. I'm so glad that you're able to join us. It's important information to gather, and it's going to be a lot of information. So please sit and enjoy the ride. I'm going to introduce to you Nancy Harvey from FIA, and she has a presentation for you. Also, before the end of the night, if you're hungry, there's pizza and water, or if you need a break, help yourself. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I am Nancy Harvey from FIA, and FIA stands for the Pennsylvania Higher Education Assistance Agency, and I was invited here by your school to do a Financial Aid 101 program. Our time together will be about an hour or so, depending on questions and so on. Don't worry about feverishly taking notes, because this is being recorded, and the PowerPoint is going to be shared with the guidance office that they will post. And there was a table of materials outside when you registered. Be sure, if you didn't pick it up, a copy of the student aid guide, because everything I'm reviewing tonight is referenced in this booklet. So it will serve as a good reference tool for you. So as we get started here, I ask that you please silence your devices so not to interrupt our time together. And here is my contact information. You'll see my email address. I am your higher education access partner. And what that means is I'm here to help educate you, answer questions, solve problems, whatever the case might be. So the best way to reach me is via email, because I cover 11 counties in my region. And so I'm traveling somewhere different pretty much every day right now. Just email me. And whether you have questions a week from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, don't ever hesitate to reach out to me. So these are the topics we're going to cover tonight, and it's pretty much everything from A to Z in the wonderful world of financial aid. And when we get to the scholarship portion of the program, which is at the end, I'll be introducing your community foundation partner here in the, what mountains? Endless Mountains, yeah, it's the mountains over here. And she'll talk to you about what the Community Foundation offers. So as we jump in here, general question for everyone is, what is financial aid? And it is sources of funds to help students pay for their post-secondary education. And those sources of funds come in 3 different types. There's gift aid, best type of money a student can get, because it doesn't need to be repaid, it's given, it's a gift. Comes in form of grants and scholarships. Then there's self-help aid that comes in the form of work. And then last but not least are loans. And loans are available from the federal government and private resources, and are available to students and parents. Being that there's this money, this financial aid money, where does it come from? It comes from the federal government, the state of Pennsylvania, from the post-secondary institutions themselves, as well as through scholarships. So how do students get access to this money? They need to apply. And it's important for students to do the research to find out what applications they're required to submit and by when. They need to be visiting the schools that they're interested in, going to their financial aid pages, and finding what applications that school requires and what the due dates are in filing them. Some schools could be similar, some schools can be different. The #1 application that every student will be required to submit is the free application for federal student aid, or more commonly known as the FAFSA. Then Pennsylvania students should complete the PA state grant application process. And then some schools require the CSS profile. And some post-secondary institutions have their own institutional financial aid application. How does the student know? They need to conduct the research. No one's going to be chasing the student down and saying, hey, you didn't do this or you missed doing that. It's the student's responsibility to find out what the forms are and when they're due. So it's important to submit applications by the deadlines. And aside from that applying to financial aid, it applies to the admissions process as well as the scholarship process as well. If students miss deadlines, they could potentially be missing out of opportunities to go to our particular school and on funds to help pay for that particular school. The programs, the financial aid programs that exist have program deadlines, but schools themselves have their own deadlines for filing financial aid paperwork. And those are the deadlines the student wants to focus on. And if a student is looking at 6 different schools and it's a mix of filing deadlines, the student wants to focus on that earliest filing deadline, because by meeting that, they meet all the rest of the filing deadlines. So the 25-26 FAFSA opens, it's scheduled to open on December 1st of this year. It will be announced when it does open, because although it's scheduled to be open on December 1st, it could be delayed. But the federal government has until December 31st of this year to open it up. So it's going to open up sometime in December, but announcements will be made. I mentioned about Pennsylvania residents, students completing the Pennsylvania state grant application process. It's important to know our filing deadlines of the FAFSA. For students going to traditional 4-year schools, the filing deadline will be May 1 of 2025. For students going to trade and technical schools, a school of nursing, a community college, or a 4-year school with rolling admissions, the filing deadline is August 1st of 2025. I'm sharing that with you because it is a program guideline, but I just told you that schools have much earlier filing deadlines, and those are the deadlines that students want to focus on. So in order for a student to begin access to financial aid in filing the FAFSA, they need to create a studentaid.gov account, or formerly known as an FSA ID. Aside from the student needing one of these accounts, parents need one as well. And this is an information piece that we created to let you know what documents you need to create that account and the process of doing so. It takes about 10 minutes for each individual to make their own studentaid.gov account. It's based on your legal name as it is on your Social Security card, your Social Security number, your date of birth, and personal email address. Do not use a school email address. Do not use a work email address. It causes nothing but problems. If you don't have a personal email address, now's the perfect time to create one. And email addresses cannot be shared. Each person needs their own email address. Do this as soon as possible. Do it tonight, do it tomorrow, get it done. Because if you run into technical problems, verification problems, you have a studentaid.gov account or for other children, or you previously had one when you went to school, the recovery time, the recovery of it is going to take some time. When you create your StudentAid.gov account with your personal identifiable information, you're going to be creating a username and password that you're going to be all using time and time and time again. Applying for financial aid is an annual process. And aside from applying for financial aid each year, if changes need to be made, corrections need to be done, you're utilizing that username and password that you created for your StudentAid.gov account. Keep the information when you create it in a good, secure space that you remember where you're putting it. So the 25-6 FAFSA involves contributors. The student is a contributor because they're contributing their information to their FAFSA. Their application will help them identify which parent or parents will be contributors to their FAFSA. So contributors can be the student, their parent, a parent spouse, and for students that are in graduate school or adults going to school, it will be the student and their spouse if they are married. So most high school seniors will be determined as dependent students for the purposes of financial aid. And dependent students are required to include parental data on their FAFSA. When the student is in their part of their FAFSA, it will help them identify their parent contributors, and when that is done, they will invite the parent or parents to contribute their information via email. This is a screenshot of what the invitation process looks like for the student. The student will need the parents' legal names as it is on their Social Security cards, their Social Security numbers, date of birth, and email addresses. The whole idea behind the FAFSA is for families to be doing it together. Parents that are here, I personally want to be giving my child all my personal identifiable information, because if it could go in the wrong hands, it's not a good thing. So to be sitting down and either telling them what your information is or putting it in so that invitation can be sent to you. So since most high school seniors are determined as dependent students, whose parental information is required on their FAFSA? We're going to focus on the yes side. Yes, it'll be the parents who are married and living together. Their information is required. For those biological parents who just happen to be living together, both their information is required on that student's FAFSA. In the case of separation and divorce, the parent who gave the student the most financial support in the previous 12 months of when the student sits down to complete their FAFSA will be identified as the parent contributor. If that parent contributor that was identified is remarried, step-parents' information is required as well. If biological parents say the financial support is equal, then the parent to be identified is the parent with the greater income and the greater assets to be identified as a parent contributor. And if that parent is remarried, step-parents' information is required as well. And in that case of separation and divorce, the parent to be identified may not be the parent who the student lives with, and it has absolutely nothing to do with who claims the child on their taxes. And last but not least, any students that are adopted, it's the adopted parents that will be identified as the contributors to the student's FAFSA. Let's look at the no side, because mistakes happen all the time. It's never foster parents, it's never legal guardians, and it's never anyone else living in the household. So when the student's completing their section of their FAFSA, to help determine if they're a dependent student or independent student, they're presented with these list of statements to help them identify how they're going to be processed. And these statements are listed in the student aid guide that I mentioned. But most high school seniors, none of these statements generally apply to them. But if one does, they mark it off, and then their FAFSA will be processed as independent, not requiring parental information to be included. The website that students go to complete their FAFSA is studentaid.gov. Be sure you're on the right website, because there are companies that try and mimic, and they do a very good job in mimicking the site. And because it's a lot of personal identifiable information, it's about stealing your information. So be sure that you are on the right website when you begin your FAFSA journey. The more organized a student and parents are in the process, the smoother, quicker, nicer the process will go. For the 25-6 FAFSA, it's part of the FAFSA simplification that previously the FAFSA could take a family 2 to 2.5 hours to complete because of a lot of manual input. But it will take, I've seen it done and it's beautiful, 20 minutes if all goes well. And it could take up to an hour if the family needs to put some information in manually. But it's important, just in case you have to put in manual information, to have those documents that we recommend here on hand so you're not running around the house trying to find them. So the security cards, the email addresses that we talked about. The 25-6 FAFSA is based on 2023 taxes. If there's child support, the child support to be reported is for the most recent completed calendar year. And you need records of assets like checking accounts, savings accounts, bonds, and those balances to be reported are as of the day the student is filing. And when it comes to 529 plans that anyone has, if it's in the student's name, we report that as their asset. If a parent owns it in the child's name, it gets reported as a parent asset. If parents have 529s for multiple children, you only report the value of the student whose FAFSA it is. And if there's any other relative that has a 529 for your child, it's not reported as an asset at all. Also, if someone owns a business, it's the value as of the date of filing of the value of your business as well as farm. So through FAFSA simplification, there were systems integrated between federal student aid and the IRS and the Social Security Administration. And because of these integrations, that's why it could take 20 minutes to get the FAFSA done versus 2.5 hours. But the student and the parent contributors need to consent to using the integration of tools. And in consenting to that, each person is also consenting to the fact that the financial information will be shared with the schools that the student lists on their FAFSA, as well as with FIA, because we administer the Pennsylvania State Grant Program and special programs that I'm going to talk to you about. So consenting is a crucial, important part of the FAFSA process. If someone doesn't consent, doesn't feel comfortable consenting, it will clearly give you a statement the student is ineligible for financial aid. If someone doesn't consent and later on changes their mind that they're going to do this, you could go back in and make that correction. For it being based on 2023 taxes with the integration with the IRS, they're using a direct data exchange. And when the student is working on their section, if they file taxes, the direct data exchange will go in and look and automatically pull in any necessary tax information to the student's section, and then the student has to answer about 3 or 4 more questions. And that financial information is masked. When the parents log into studentaid.gov with their studentaid.gov account information, when you consent to utilizing the tools, your tax return information will automatically be pulled in, and your information is masked as well. The data, direct data exchange may not work if a person filed a foreign or Puerto Rican tax return. It will not work if a person is tagged of being a victim of identity theft, and it will not work if the filing status of the parents in 2023 conflicts with the marital status that the student chooses on the day of filing. Hence, it's good to have that paperwork on hand, because then the parents will be prompted to put the information in manually. So this is a slide giving a bit more detail of what's considered an asset. Throughout the FAFSA, there are help buttons to help students and parents with questions throughout the FAFSA. We talked about most of them already. So in focusing on, so mistakes don't happen, is what not to report. Do not report your primary residence. Do not report any personal property, life insurance policies, and I mentioned do not report 529 money for any other children if you have, pools of money for that. So when the student's completing their section, they have 5 sections they complete, and the last one is school selection. Students can list up to 20 schools they're interested in them receiving their FAFSA information. If a student, and for each of the schools, for example, if a student lists 3, but later on, there's other schools, can they go add those schools on? Yes, they can, once their FAFSA is processed. If a student puts 15 schools down and only winds up applying to 10 of them and gets accepted at those 10, it doesn't matter that those other 5 are on there. They just won't get the FAFSA down and won't process any financial aid offers. So the student does their section, submits, signs and submits. The parents do their section, which which is made up of 3 areas, signs and submits. Once that's all done, a confirmation page is given. And the confirmation page will tell the student about next steps. It should only take 5 to 7 days for the FAFSA to be processed. And this is a good reminder for me that this information I'm sharing with you tonight is as we know it as of today and is subject to change. Right now, and I say that because right now, the 25-6 FAFSA is in test in October and November. And they're trying to work out any bugs and kinks and problems that existed in the 24-25 school year. So hence, with the scheduled release date and the information I'm sharing, it's as of we know it today. So it should take 5 to 7 days, as I said, for it to be processed. And once it is, the student will receive an email letting them know it's been processed, and for them to log in to their account to look at their FAFSA submission summary. The FAFSA submission summary is a very important document. because it'll be a recap of all the answers to the questions. During the process, it goes through some database matches, and if there's any errors, problems, issues found, they will be listed there for the student that they need to get corrected with each of the schools in a timely manner. It will let the student know an estimate of their federal Pell Grant eligibility, and it will also let them know what their student aid index is, or SAI, and I'm going to talk to you about that. And for when we get to the area of scholarships, a lot of scholarship applications ask for the student aid index, that SAI, and you find it on your FAFSA submission summary. So after the FAFSA has been completed and submitted and processed, in order for us to help students with the PA State Grant application process, is we use some FAFSA data. So Federal Student Aid will send us the information for the students that filed the FAFSA in the state of Pennsylvania. We ingest it into our system, and if everything checks out, then we will send an email to the student to let them know about finishing creating their account with us and filling out the PA State Grant form and high school form. So the time frame, it takes 5 to 7 days for the FAFSA to be processed, and then I would say maybe another, 7 to 10 days after that. If everything is good, the student should get their email from us to complete their PA State Grant application process. There are students that are experiencing or may experience an unusual circumstance. And previously, the financial aid process, them going to school, it wasn't a very friendly process for them, but that has changed with FAFSA simplification. So there are some students, due to various circumstances, that are dependent students and unable to provide parental data on their FAFSA. And reasons are their parents are incarcerated. They had to leave home due to an abusive relationship. Student was caught up in human trafficking. There's some other reasons here, and there's some reasons that don't exist. So if there's a big reason where a dependent student can't get parental information, they mark that off, and their FAFSA will be processed as provisionally independent. Every school that the student lists on their FAFSA will get notification of that. And they're required by law to reach out to that student to find out what's going on and request supporting documentation. So each school can make their own individual decision whether or not they could change that dependent student to an independent status based on that unusual circumstance and documentation that they're experiencing. The student will also need to reach out to us at FIA, since we administer the Pennsylvania State Grant Program, about their provisionally independent status and find out what information and supporting documentation that they need to send in to us so a decision could be made on their behalf. Aside from unusual circumstances, families may experience special circumstances, and special circumstances are related to financials. I mentioned to you about it's based on 2023 taxes. If a family has experienced some financial losses since 2023 due to a divorce or separation, a loss of a job, big medical bills, the student submits their FAFSA, and once it's processed, then they reach out to the school to let them know about that the financials today are not like they were in 2023. The financial aid offices will ask the student for supporting documentation, so then the financial aid office can potentially reprocess their FAFSA on today's financial circumstances. We always say families should not suffer in silence. The financial aid office is truly the best office that you want to make friends with on a campus, because they can help you and guide you when it comes to helping pay for school. And when it comes to special circumstances, hopefully things have gotten better for you, since 2023. But let's say a year from now, when your child's in school, or 2 years from now, and you experience, a financial decrease, go to the financial aid office and talk to them, and find out the steps the student needs to take for their FAFSA to be reprocessed. So since the student completed their FAFSA, the information gets to the schools that they listed on it. For all those schools that they applied to and have been accepted to, they will create a financial aid offer from their institution for that student. So it's important for students to know, especially now when they're going through the admissions process, to learn about the school's total cost of attendance. Reason being is because financial aid can potentially be awarded up to the total cost of attendance. And also, total cost of attendance is broken up into two parts: direct costs and indirect costs. Direct costs are the first two bullets, that tuition and fees and housing and food. That's what the student's going to get billed for the summer before they go to school. All the other bullets, which are personal expenses, transportation, books, materials, additional fees, and so on, those are indirect costs, because aside from the first two bullets, there are expenses with going to school. So a school is able to create those budgets for students, which equals the total cost of attendance. The SAI, Student Aid Index that I mentioned, which is the output number on the student's FAFSA submission summary. How this is calculated, it's quite complicated. It's based on poverty levels and so on. But a very high level gist is it's primarily income driven for the student and parents. It is percentages of the students and parents' assets. It involves the family size on the day of filing, and it also involves the age of the older parent. There are income protection allowances for the student and the parent, because no one expects a family to contribute 100% of what they have to a student's education. But once the student is assigned their student aid index, irregardless of the cost of school, the student aid index belongs to the student, so it's constant, irregardless of the cost of the school and the offer. And I'll give you some examples of that. So with those financial aid offers that the school is going to create, how this works is the school looks at their cost of attendance, or COA. They're going to subtract off the SAI, Student Aid Index, my number. They're going to subtract off OFA, which is other financial aid, and other financial aid are merit scholarships, outside scholarships. And when they do the subtraction, if there's a balance left, that equals the financial need that the student is demonstrating at that particular school. And then it's up to the financial aid office to look at those different types of aid from those different sources to try and offer as much financial aid as possible to help meet that financial need that the student is demonstrating. Make sense? Okay. So, There are a handful of schools across the country that will meet 100% of a student's need. You could Google to find out who those schools are. But most schools, and it's generally posted on their financial aid pages, but it's a good question to ask, but most schools meet anywhere between 30% and 60% of a student's financial need, just so you're aware. And to put this into practice, okay, I'm the student. My SAI, my student aid index is $20,000. I have no other financial aid. I've applied and been accepted to 3 schools. One, school A costing $60,000, school B costing $40,000, and school C costing $20,000. So at school A, they're doing an offer for me, trying to figure out my need. So they'll take their $60,000 cost minus my SAI of $20,000, leaving me with a need at school A of $40,000. So they'll work up an offer for me to meet as much of that as possible. School B had a cost of $40,000. My SAI is $20,000, so at school B, I have a financial need of $20,000, very different than school A. At school C, they cost $20,000. My SAI is $20,000, so I have absolutely no need at school C whatsoever. Make sense? So the financial aid offer, the student will get one as long as they listed them on the FAFSA and applied and got accepted. And those offers will list the various types of financial aid, the amounts for the academic year, because financial aid is dispersed in 2 equal disbursements to help pay the fall bill and then help pay the spring bill. And once the student determines where they are going to school, they have to look at that offer and accept the aid and or reject some aid or a little bit of both. And it's important for them to read the disclosures because financial aid recipients have rights and responsibilities as receiving financial aid, and there are academic requirements to maintain that aid. So we like to bring that up because we don't want parents being surprised when the student's supposed to be going back in their 2nd year and the financial aid comes through and it's not like it was the year before, meaning if nothing really changed. And then you talk to your child and it's like, what's going on? It's like, I dropped 9 credits, not enough to move forward. Or I actually, my GPA was a 1.8 and that's not enough, so try not to be surprised. So I'm going to talk a little bit about detail about the federal and state aid programs that are available. I mentioned the Pell Grant, the federal Pell Grant. The estimated amount will be noted on the student's FAFSA submission summary, but the Pell Grant is the largest grant program in the country for students. The amount that you see there of $73.95 is the maximum amount a student could receive right now. We don't know what it'll be in 25-6, but the government always tries to maintain the level that it's at, but the goal is to hopefully grow it. The schools themselves can administer 2 federal programs on behalf of the government. The first one, and we're all going to say it 3 times fast, so get ready, people. It's the Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant. Now that's a mouthful, so let's go. FSEOG, that's what it'll be listed as on the student's financial aid offer if they're eligible for that money. When the school administers it, not all schools have pots of that money. That money goes to the most neediest of students. And if schools have pots of money, schools A pot is different than schools B pot. So if you see some money and no money or less money, that's because of those circumstances. And then I said about self-help aid, work They administer the Federal Work Study Program. And if students demonstrate need, they should be offered most likely a Federal Work Study job. And that's a job where they work on campus and get a bi-weekly paycheck, and that paycheck can be used for those indirect costs that I talked to you about. You know, personal expenses, transportation, books and supplies, and so on. So when it comes to the Pennsylvania State Grant that we at FIA administer, the maximum amount right now is $7,750. Again, not knowing what it's going to be for 25-6 until the legislators get together in the spring. The goal is to maintain the level that it's at, if not grow it. If students are thinking about going to school out of the state of Pennsylvania, if the student goes to one of those 6 reciprocal states of Delaware, DC, Massachusetts, Vermont, West Virginia, or Ohio, a student can take up to $600 with them. Reason being is those 6 states whose residents come to PA schools can bring a little bit of their grant money to PA schools. Every other state isn't interested in playing nice with us, so we're not going to let any of our money leave with those students. Aside from the Pennsylvania State Grant that we administer many special programs. There's 2 pages here. And we encourage students and parents to visit our website, FIA.org, occasionally to look at our special programs. Because special programs, if a student meets the criteria, requires an application. The only one that doesn't require a separate application is the last bullet that you see there, the PA Ready to Succeed Scholarship. That's the only one that does not require an application. And there's different deadlines for different special programs. Also, we just brought 3 brand new special programs up on behalf of the state. And in the next few months, we're going to be bringing up an additional 3 new special programs. So my point is, they change, many get added, and even criteria for existing special programs can change. And there's no general time of year when this happens, so it's in everyone's best interest to keep an eye on it from time to time. And aside from all the special programs on FIA.org, there is a student and parent section there to help you through all of this. And we offer, my group and another group within FIA offers webinars, live webinars that you can sign up for on general information and specific financial aid topics. So we encourage you to check them out. And if you can't attend it live, they are always recorded. So student loans, the third type of financial aid. We're going to talk about those that are available from the federal government. At a minimum, every student that completes a FAFSA will receive a federal direct student loan. This loan is in the student's name. They don't have to worry about paying it back until 6 months after they graduate or drop less than half time. They'll have to sign a master promissory note, a note to repay. It's a legal document, it's a loan. The loan is unsecured because it's the structure of it for higher education. And students will need to go through an entrance counseling interview that where they decide where they're going to go to school, that school will reach out to them about completing that entrance counseling interview. Parents that are here, I caution you, do not do it for your child. You're supposed to be bringing up successful adults. You could be there with them to be aware of what they are being told, but it is the student's loan. They should start to become aware of their finances and what they might be borrowing to go to school. And that being said, there are loan limits to the federal direct student loan, and a first-year freshman student can receive a maximum of $5,500. They could get up to $3,500 in subsidized money, which means the government will pay the interest on that loan while they're in school, and $2,000 in unsubsidized money. And what unsubsidized means is the government will lend the student the money, but the interest that accrues on it will be the responsibility of the student. They'll get quarterly interest statements, and we recommend that they make those quarterly interest payments, if at all possible, to help them save money in the long run. And as you can see, the amount that they can receive increases as they progress in school. So aside from the federal direct student loan, there's Parent Plus loans from the federal government, and then there are private loans. We caution families to please exhaust all other forms of financial aid before you may go in the direction of a federal plus loan or private loan. The Federal Direct Parent Plus loan is a loan that a parent can take out to help pay for their child's expenses. Parents are not required to borrow a dime. Parents are not obligated to pay a dime, and that is stated on the FAFSA when you put your information in. But if you do, the plus loan is available. Parents can apply it to the total cost of attendance. It's a very easy loan to get. All the federal government does is a simple credit check. And as long as the parent does not have very adverse credit, they're going to get approved for the loan, regardless of their ability to repay it or not. Repayment is up to 10 years after the spring disbursement is made, or the parent can fully defer repayment, and the interest that accrues, you'll get quarterly interest statements, and we recommend you paying that. If the parent applies and gets denied, on the very bottom of the screen, then the student would be eligible for an additional $4,000 underneath the federal direct student loan program. And there are many parents that apply and they're like, I'm going to get denied, and that doesn't happen. So just be aware that that happens. But the rate right now, it's set every July 1st, look in the middle, it's quite expensive right now. It's over 9% fixed interest rate. And the government charges fees. They charge close to 4.3% in fees. And the fees, they deduct it from the amount that the parent is borrowing, so you have to budget that in if this is a direction you're going to go. Pros and cons to everything. Aside from that, we talked about repayment, and aside from that, there are private loans available for families to take a look at. They're very popular. They're offered by some banks, some credit unions, and some state agencies. We have one that we administer that I'll talk to you about. Read the fine print. Rates and terms and conditions are different from private lender to private lender. Like the direct student loan, the plus loan is unsecured, and so are private loans unsecured. A student can borrow with a credit-worthy cosigner, and the credit-worthy cosigner can be anyone. And it's also, most lenders offer a private parent loan, that if a parent was looking to borrow money on their own, but maybe wanted to save money, that they could look at a private loan. I'm not aware of any lender that charges upfront origination fees, but there are some lenders that charge some back-end processing fees. So read the fine print. Students, if you haven't already started to receive mailings from some private lenders, you will. And just because you're getting a mailing from them or solicited from them doesn't make them the best private loans out there. So just so be aware of that. So in 2019, Pennsylvania finally came out with the PA Forward private student loan. Private loans have been in existence for about 25 or 30 years. So it finally came to the state's attention. It's like, we need to further do something to help Pennsylvanians because so many people are borrowing private student loans, so they created the PA Forward student loan. The rate spread that you see there is what it is right now, and it is the lowest spread of any private loan in the country. Reason being is because the state can borrow money at lower cost than we can if we went to an institution to borrow money, and they pass those savings along to the borrowers. If you're going to keep it in the mix, if you're going to go in this direction, visit FIA.org to look at the most recent rate spreads. And being that it's been in existence for 5 years now, any income from the program is being dumped back into the PA State Grant Program. So it's helping, it's a win-win-win. One thing that I forgot to mention about private loans in general, private lenders are giving their money. It's much more stringent credit criteria that they use. They'll do credit checks on the individuals. They'll do debt-to-income ratio tests. They'll look at FICO scores, and they will also look at what year the student is in school and what repayment option the student chose. Most private lenders offer 4 repayment options, which is immediate repayment, interest only, $25 a month, or completely deferred. And depending on what the student chooses, with all those other items that I mentioned, it factors into the interest rate that is being offered. So scholarships, my favorite topic, our favorite topic. I do a whole hour program just on scholarship, but I won't do that to you tonight. Scholarships are such an underrated, underutilized form of financial aid, I can't even begin to tell you. But scholarships are available from the post-secondary institutions themselves, from local and regional sources that the guidance office gets notified about and will be informing all the seniors come December, January or so about them. And then there is a plethora of national scholarships out there. It's amazing how much money goes unused from year to year and how many times the Community Foundation, the Guidance Office, the Financial Aid Office, National, are begging a person to apply for their scholarship, that whoever knew it was going to be so hard to give away free money. So some tips that it's never too early to start. Scholarships are just not for high school seniors. They become available in a freshman year of high school, all the way through college and graduate school. So students want to search for scholarships year over year over year to help them pay for their post-secondary education. Students should never pay a fee to apply for a loan. This is gift aid, it's free money. Do not pay to apply for them. And we also suggest that students do not ignore scholarships in lower dollar amounts, $500, $750, $1,000, because those especially go with no applicants. So what are your chances of winning them if you're one of one or two or three? There are some students that make that their target, that they look for as many low scholarships as possible because of the low application rates. And up there, because I can't stress it enough about this whole process, is don't miss deadlines for anything, admissions, financial aid, or scholarships. We suggest that students create a resume, and because scholarships want to know about the student. What have you been up to in freshman year, sophomore, junior, senior year, and so on. So if a student gets themselves organized, they plug everything in and aren't at risk of missing anything on those applications. And all these colorful bubbles that you see here, they're also places to go and look for scholarships and start to put your thinking caps on. Look at the local level, the regional level, the national level. Follow things through. Okay, if they're given this scholarship out locally, I wonder if they have a region. I wonder if they have a national. Follow things through. So this is just a very, very, very small list of some scholarship sites that we're aware of that students, have told us about from, winning scholarships through these sites. To further help get your thinking cap on is in the purple thought bubble, the one on the bottom, Stuck at Prom. That is by the Duct Tape Company. And for seniors who go to prom and create something to wear out of duct tape, snap a picture of it, send it in, can be awarded money. Simple things could receive $500, and we know students in the greater area that have won. More elaborate, whether it be dress or tux or pants or whatever, because duct tape comes in so many neat, fun patterns, that we know an area student who won $10,000 because what they wore and what they made it out of was more elaborate. So I'm telling you, scholarships are everywhere. I was in the grocery store and I was buying my favorite applesauce and it said, ooh, the symbol went up to $50,000. I'm thinking, oh, for home improvements? I'm all about that. And I picked it up because I was buying it and I read, and they were giving away up to $50,000 in scholarships. So scholarships are everywhere. And on that caveat, I'm going in, your area community foundation is going to talk to you about what they do, what they offer, and being a partner of ours at FIA.
It's a lot of information to take in tonight. So you're in your senior year, it goes fast. Community Foundation administers over 350 funds, and out of those funds, a third of them are scholarship funds. Each year, we work with the guidance counselors and we send out a list of scholarships that are available to the students. We are also a PATH partner, which is a great program to work with. And if you are awarded a scholarship from the Community Foundation, PATH we can nominate you for potential PATH funding. So it's another perk to partner with them. They'll match up to a certain amount per student, and it's not a guaranteed funding. The timeline to apply for the scholarship at the Community Foundation starts November 15th. You can go online and apply for all of our scholarships that are available to English students. And our deadline is March 15th. We start a little earlier because we hope that you'll get your applications in before you get really busy. And time does fly. And out on the table is some list of our applications, but you don't really need that. It's all done online. So one application will lead you to a lot of the ones for Blue Ridge. Each individual application may have a different requirement. There might be an essay, there might be a question or some other information, but it's all very simple and very easy. And the award recipients get announced on award night at the school. So please work with your guidance counselor to see what scholarships are available starting in November from the Community Foundation and apply. And if you have any questions, I'm very quick to answer them, so don't hesitate. Thank you.
And PATH, let me go back. The PATH program is one of the special programs that I mentioned to you. And I'll tell you what PATH stands for, because that's what you'll have to go and search. So PATH is the third bullet. It's the Partnerships for Access to Higher Education, PATH, PATH. So it's wonderful that your area foundation is a partner of ours, because there are some areas that aren't. So I recommend to the schools and the families, in those cases, to reach out to those foundations to become partners of ours, because the scholarship money that the the student can win. They can even get more because the foundation's a partner of ours. So as we're getting ready to wrap up here, as I get back to my slide and apologize about this. All right. Recapping some of the resources that I mentioned to you about, as well as others on this slide. The one I want to bring your attention to is educationplanner.org. It's important for students as they prepare for life after high school and what they're going to study and where they're going to study it, is for them to know what their anticipating starting salary is going to be for what they're going to go to school for. That's important for the fact that an education planner helps them with that. If students are unsure where they're going to go, education planner can help them with that. But the anticipated salary is live data. That's because we bring it in from the Department of Labor and Industry. And it's important for students to know what their starting salary is going to be, because if they're going to borrow to go to school, they should not borrow more money than what their starting salary is going to be during their time in school. So they should know what their starting salary is, so they know what their borrowing limit is for the time they're in school. Because if they're borrowing more money, they're going to a school they cannot afford, so then that leads to over borrowing. When it comes to parents and borrowing, if you're going to go in that direction, the rule of thumb is, what is your current salary? You shouldn't borrow more money for your child during the time they're in school than what your current salary is. Because if you do, your child will be going to a school that they cannot afford to be at, and you'll be in an over borrowing situation. So if you want to stay connected for us, you're welcome to sign up for our newsletter, and like when the FAFSA is released, you'll get an email and so on. You could scan the QR code and sign up to be in the know and stay connected with us if you want. Everybody good? All right. What students should be doing now, I'm going to go counterclockwise, is students should be visiting those websites, admissions pages and financial aid pages, finding about applications and deadlines, get those studentaid.gov accounts created ASAP. When it comes to exploring scholarships, as we've talked about, it's never too early to start, and it's never too late to start, because there are available year over year over year. And it's important at 6 o'clock there, the yellow, to talk about what's affordable. We recommend, it can be tough conversations to have, but it's better to have them sooner rather than later. And that conversation can be something you have to have, or could have, or should have multiple times. Then, if a student wants to get a general idea of how much federal aid they may receive, they can go to studentaid.gov and use their estimator and input their information to get those amounts. And then last but not least, every post-secondary institution is required by law to have a net price calculator on their website. What net price calculator means is that's the number you should be focusing on, and I'll tell you about that. But the student at the schools they're interested in use that net price calculator, and based on their inputted information, the school will indicate what your student's net price is based on students that are similar to them that are on campus. And in focusing on the net price, what that means is the school looks at their total cost minus all the gift aid that's been given in the way of scholarships and grants. That gives you the net price. We recommend that that's what families focus on, because that net price, that money needs to be taken out of pocket, needs to be borrowed, or needs to be worked for. And when you get that net price, do the math. plan for the future, look beyond year one. How are you going to handle year one? But then how are you going to handle 2, 3, and 4, and possibly 5 and 6 if they go to graduate school? Makes sense to everybody what net price means? Yeah. Okay. So we are social, and so are all of you, because you're all out here with us tonight. So if you haven't liked us or linked up to us on our social media handles daily, we're pushing things out, and sometimes even multiple times a day. So that's another way to stay in touch with us, besides signing up through the QR code. And last but not least, here's my contact information. Don't hesitate to reach out to me. I do have my business card with me if anyone is interested in that. I'm happy to share it. And as we finish, can I answer any general questions for anyone? Your heads are spinning. Yeah, I do this for a living, so I know it like the back of my hand. Well, questions come up later. Don't hesitate, as I said multiple times, don't hesitate to reach out. And if anyone has any personal or individual questions they'd like to ask, I'll hang out for a few minutes and, happy to address them for you tonight. But thank you for coming, and good luck to everybody.